Hello friends, Eli Hibbett here with the Pwn Your Homework Physics Series podcast. If you're looking to prepare, review, or gain an added edge or point of view about topics in physics, then look no further. Tune in each week to unlock your understanding of the physical world surrounding us. And now let's dive right in. Hey, how is everybody feeling today? I am your host, Eli Hibbett, back at you again with another episode of the Pwn Your Homework Physics Series podcast, and today we are celebrating episode number 79. Work smarter, not harder versus stop thinking and start doing, and how that can affect your next homework assignment, your next quiz, your next test, or even your next final. So, hanging loose and feeling good. Thanksgiving is over, and so off we go. Probably not going to see the moon tonight here on Long Island, New York. But if I could, I'd be seeing, we're in the last quarter phase. And so we have 65% illumination. And we are making our way through to our new moon, which is coming up in 9 days. And our next full moon is coming up in 23 days. And so what do we have? On the new moon, or on the last quarter, we have ourselves a... what do you call it? Well, I guess you call it a quarter moon, but it's making our way into the old waning crescent, going towards the new moon. So that's what's going on up in the sky. What is going on the old Twitter? Twitter.com/PWN Physics. A little bit of a facelift, new icon for the podcast and the old Twitter, and a lot of cool stuff going on over there. Trying to really make it tips and tricks heavy. A lot of, facts, factoids, quotes, inspiration, and tips and tricks, of course, abounding over there. So do check it out and give a follow over at PWN Physics on Twitter, and Facebook coming soon. So that's what's going on in the old cyber realm. But so I was thinking over Thanksgiving about two conflicting philosophies that I have when I approach my my everyday life, but specifically when I was a young budding student. And so we have work smarter, not harder, which I love. Definitely work smarter, not harder. Try to do things intelligently, and don't always try to horse it if you can possibly avoid it. And then we have the old stop thinking, start doing mentality, which is also very useful. I mean, sooner or later you gotta do it. The proof is in the pudding, and you have to get cranking. So the question is, which do you apply? Both, neither? Which one do you apply during an exam or a homework assignment? And so I put together a little essay, I guess, if you will, about the whole thing, and I thought I would share that with you today. And I think it's good because we're going into midterm or final exam time, depending on what you're doing, where you are in school. And so it's time to really, think about how you're going to implement this philosophy in the very near future. And I think we're going to be doing a couple of reruns for the next couple of episodes, bringing back the test tips and tricks and homework and final tips and tricks. So those will also be floating around over on Twitter. So do check it out. And without further ado, let me share with you a little essay entitled "Work Smarter, Not Harder" versus "Stop Thinking, Start Doing." How to apply both to your next exam or homework assignment. It's not so easy. So there are two fantastic aphorisms which hold a lot of water in my life. The first is "Work smarter, not harder." The second is "Stop thinking, start doing." These both can hold a lot of power, but either can be wildly unproductive if not used properly. They can also both yield awesome results. There is a trick and balance to using them in conjunction, which may not be so obvious. When I was working as an app developer, creating iPhone apps for an insurance appraisal company, sometimes I was faced with coding which I felt was a little out of my league. I would sit there and think about how to achieve a certain goal, and so I made a little sign for myself on the wall: "Stop thinking, start doing." It actually helped me out a lot, as I would sit there and try to look at my problem from every single possible angle. When I finally decided to get down to work and just tackle the darn thing from any given side, I found that I was able to achieve my goal in a very reasonable amount of time. I let this be my motto in times when I was feeling burdened by overthinking. One day, I walked into my office to find my sign had been replaced by one that said, "Work smarter, not harder." This was my boss's clever way of trying to encourage me. It was born out of a wonderful place, and the work smarter, not harder mentality had always been one that I had embraced, up until that moment when I found it replacing my other motto. I was at this moment, excuse me, it was at this moment that I finally had a realization. My boss had a mentality that these two sayings and approaches to work are fundamentally at odds with each other. If I stop thinking and start doing, I'll be wasting lots of time cranking on problems that in a clumsy way will yield me mediocre results. If only I had thought more. You can apply this to your next physics test. Imagine just reading the problem and starting to work out any discernible strategy. Just 15 seconds of pondering might illuminate pathways that cranking on a problem will never get you to. Consider the flip side. Your grade on your test is 100% dependent on whatever you write down on the test paper. If you wheedle away all of your time thinking about the best approach, especially in a time setting, there won't be much to show when it comes time to grade your test. The real talent, like with most things in life, is finding the balances between these two extrema. For me, the breakdown was something like this. For many of my physics tests, there were 4 to 5 questions with 2 hours to complete. That gives you 20 to 30 minutes per problem. It's actually not much once you really start diving in, but it's a big chunk of time if you know where you're going. In this situation, I normally took the first 15 to 20 minutes to just read through each problem, taking in the problems and understanding exactly what they're asking of me. What topic from class is this question really trying to ask? What will my initial strategy be? How many parts are there in this problem? I might jot down some initial ideas on scrap paper just so I don't forget. While the rest of the class is feverishly writing away, I will be sitting, thinking, and making some attempt to work smarter, not harder. When you're writing, your mind is full. As much as most people don't like to hear it, there is no such thing as multitasking. Either you're thinking about what you're writing down, or you're thinking about the other problems. There's really no in between. If you're thinking about your other problems, you'll be making mistakes on this problem. If you're thinking about the problem at hand, you cannot be thinking about anything else on the back burner. Leaving some space to let the problem settle into your mind and not jumping into action will really give you a chance to do a good job. After I have my initial strategies ironed out, working smarter is over. It's time to stop thinking and start doing. After all, they want to see writing on the paper. It doesn't matter how well I've thought it out. So get to work. So with this in mind, even in a multiple choice type setting, I usually block out 12 to 15% of the time to work smarter and not harder, and the other 85 to 88% of the time to stop thinking and start doing. Believe it or not, most of the time, I'd finish early. With homework, it's a little tougher because you feel like you have all the time in the world. Sometimes it's useful to constrain yourself. Give yourself 2 hours to finish. Treat it like a test. You'll be in good shape when exam time comes around. Try using 12 to 15% of the time to absorb all the questions, then get to work. Pace yourself and stop thinking and start doing. That's where all of these step-by-steps come into play. You know, the ones we're talking about on the podcast all the time. If you can think of the problem as being a sequence of step-by-steps during your work smarter period, the stop thinking, start doing time will be a breeze. You'll be going through the motions. Balance is critical. You need to understand what works for you. This guideline worked very well for me. You may need to tweak it a little to get it just right for you, but going in with a strategy will give you a much better chance at a good outcome than just scrambling through your test. Remember, work smarter, not harder. So yeah, that's a couple of ideas. I think, of course, it's always the balance that works out. It's usually never one extreme that gives you anything useful. So, maybe 12 to 15% isn't enough for you, but it's a great place to start. Read those questions, let them sink in, and then get to work because, you have to get to work sooner or later. So, you got to just find that balance of where you feel comfortable personally. For me, it was usually somewhere about 15% of the time spent thinking. And that's still with me today, in the way that I currently operate. And I think it's very, very helpful because you have to have some time to plan, and then most of your time is spent taking action. So there you go. And, while I was actually just reading this thing, I thought of a couple of more strategies for final time. So I think maybe we'll do a little addendum to the 7. Was it 7? I don't even remember. Tips to pwn your final. So everything's coming. Feeling good. Gearing up for that winter break coming shortly. And yeah, so work smarter, not harder. And at a certain point, you got to stop thinking and start doing, and find the balance that works for you. So I think that's going to do it for today. If you're feeling like you need some review, check out the apps. Put them on your iPhone. Great review for even going through the basics. Just refresh them in your mind. You may not have seen them for a while, and they are certainly going to rear their ugly heads on the final. So go over to the blog, PWNYOURHW.blogspot.com, and click on the available in the App Store link, available on any episode. It'll take you over there, and load yourself up. It's not the worst thing in the world. We got a Physics Brushup app bundle, which covers a lot of the the first couple of the stuff that you need to know before diving into the semester. And then we have a Newton's Second Law Force app, great for going back and reviewing Newton's Second Law, a kinematics equation assistant, which I think really helps, and much more, of course. So there we go. I think I'm going to be back at you sooner rather than later, and I hope you dug this episode. I hope it gives you a little bit of inspiration. Of course, a full transcript on the blog, PWNYOURHW.blogspot.com, if you want to, dive in a little deeper. And thanks again for listening. I really appreciate it, guys. If you want to send some love over on Twitter or on the blog, feel free. And with that, I will see you guys soon. So stay frosty, stay in the zone, and I'll catch you next time, guys. Take care.